Drew Miller, a recent master's graduate in history, was lucky enough to land a teaching job, although, during this pandemic, teachers have it harder than usual this year.
So I got my teaching degree from Truman State University, and that allowed me to get my teaching certificate from Missouri itself, the state, from the, oh boy, I'm forgetting the name of it. It is the education department, DESE, the Missouri
Okay.
Education Department.
Drew Miller is a substitute teacher for sophomores and juniors at Lindbergh High. Lindbergh has approximately 2,200 students and they run a virtual and hybrid system. Virtual, where some of the kids stay home all day, and hybrid, where in total of all the kids doing hybrid, half of the hybrid kids will go on one day and the other half of the hybrid kids will go on the other.
Definitely not the easiest. As far as teachers go, it's definitely one of the slower ones, especially because I went for high school. So high school history is like what most history teachers want to teach because that's what they learn about in college and stuff. Whereas when you go lower, it's kind of harder to get those jobs. I will say it's not easy to get a high school history teacher job, but if you're looking for a teacher job and you want to make yourself marketable, you can kind of bounce around and do middle as well, which I plan on doing eventually. But key thing is during a pandemic, definitely not easy. Definitely not easy normally either.
Since the pandemic began, the need for substitute teachers has greatly increased, with many teachers contracting COVID-19 and not being quarantined. Along with this, school has not been the same for students since the pandemic began.
Good but weird. Um, I'd say the biggest thing, in my opinion, is that like kids seem super tense in the sense that like there's not a lot of fun going on at schools anymore. And like, which is, I know a weird thing to perceptually say, but like, it's night and day difference in person. It's just like, man, there is like no positivity because kids can't really interact with each other too much. They can't play the same sports. I mean, heck, I think last week the whole football team got the coronavirus and was quarantined. So you see the point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Teachers have also had many challenges balancing teaching both hybrid and virtual students.
It's been weird but good. I think that the biggest thing that it's shown me personally is probably trying to keep track of everything firstly, but secondly also knowing that like the computer is your best friend and like you really have to divulge time into systems you're going to use and stuff like that. Like I've spent a lot more time learning about Zoom than I would have ever liked to in my life, but it was worth it.
Through teaching during this pandemic, incoming teachers like Drew Miller have gotten some valuable takeaways from this experience.
Changes I will implement in my teaching style. I don't know, everything but the teaching style I feel like has changed and like that's it's hard to answer that question because part of me is like, well, of course the teaching style changes all the time, but even right now it's kind of a work in progress for me and for really everybody. This thing's been a hot mess. Um, I would say though the biggest thing as far as changing teaching style is it definitely not that I thought I was ever bad on this one, but it taught me to be a little bit more patient, which is just like what I'm really trying to do. Because like I mean, during a pandemic, like, is it important if a student gets an assignment to you a day late or something? No. Is it important if, oh, this student's not in class, but they're on Zoom? Like, that's fine too. You know what I mean? It's all about adapting. And the biggest thing when you adapt in life is you have to be patient because you can't just break left and then hit something. You know what I mean? You have to be aware of each side of the angle.
Yeah. Okay. This is Lucas Miller signing off for PCH TV.